Welcome to the Creativity, Thinking, and Education podcast with your host, Patricia Rose Upsack. Today we are really very, very lucky, and I'm just I've been waiting for this a very long time, we'll just say that. We are going to be able to speak with Jeff Goelitz, who is connected to HeartMath, and we're going to have a wonderful hour. Good afternoon, Jeff.
Good afternoon to you as well. Thank you for having me.
So I wondered if you could tell our audience a little bit about your background and who you are, and then explain HeartMath. Could you do that?
Sure. Thank you. I'm a former educator, upper elementary school teacher for 5 years. And then when HeartMath was launched, 25 years ago, 1991, there was an opportunity for me to fill in the education side of thing. So my goal was to bring HeartMath to schools, to youth agencies, universities, and I've been doing that ever since for 25 years. And that includes talking regularly to educators, mental health therapists, parents, counselors, professors, consultants, YMCA, Boys and Girls Club. We're in many, many different places, and in this era of change, HeartMath is uniquely positioned to bring some skill sets and ideas to help people deal with change,
I'm so glad.
deal with challenge. Mm-hmm. We've been at it for a while here, and I've been at it not only as a consultant. I'm on the phone a lot, do a lot of presentations, a lot of training, but also if I get the opportunity, which happens sometimes, I create or write curriculum or books. Lots of new stuff. So I'm do a lot in the area of youth development, whether it's preschool, elementary, middle school, high school, and even college. Okay. And a lot of different stuff there that blends HeartMath into the right framework for parents, schools, and whatnot.
Right. Could you tell us, because I know that there are people that have heard of HeartMath, but they don't actually understand what it is. Could you explain that?
Yes. So with the name Heart and Math, those can seem to be contradictory or opposite. But what we do is, one, we believe in the power of the heart, not in the sentimental vanilla sense, but in its more historical sense, where the heart, even in Webster's dictionary, will say it's the center of who you are. I live in Boulder Creek, California, where there's redwood forest, and we talk about heartwood.
Oh, wow.
Heartwood is sort of the center of the tree. That's the good, the best quality wood of a redwood. Mm-hmm. With the math part, math, of course, is a way of it's numbers, it's quantifying something. So what we've set out to do with HeartMath is to quantify the heart, to make that which is subjective more objective. Ultimately, how that translates is we've done much research showing how some of our strategies, some of our techniques, how they measure out using different psychometrics, pre and post measures, but also a lot of electrophysiology stuff. So we're deeply involved in the research world, and at any one time I'm involved directly with about 10 studies going on with preschools, middle schools, high schools, colleges on a range of topics. But bringing the skill set. So HeartMath, in essence, is just bringing the power of the heart in a scientific way or a mathematical way into the world, such that it's credible and it makes mathematical way into the world, such that it's credible and it makes sense.
Right. That sounds amazing.
We work together, but we are separate organizations.
So, okay, somehow it went away when you said, so to get a hold of you, it's www.heartmath.what?
.org.
Okay.
Nonprofit.
.org. Okay, all right.
Yes.
Cool. All right.
And you could even find my name there someplace, Jeff Goelitz.
I think that's wonderful. Okay, so I have here a list. It says that this this presentation, our podcast, is going to be called The Importance of Heart. So the first thing I have on the list is, what is the first thing on my list? The first thing on the list is the depth of heart. Could you speak to that?
Sure. Well, throughout the ages, going back into ancient times and pretty much at the center of all religions, they've talked about heart. It's widely discussed in the Bible, the Quran, the Bhagavad Gita, Buddhism, but they talked about heart in a spiritual context, the center of who we are. It's like our spirit goes through the heart. And even going back to Aristotle, the great Greek philosopher who thought that the heart was really the center of intelligence, certainly the center of emotion. So in our very cognitive-based analytical world, we felt 25 years ago the need to launch an institute that really put a lot of weight on the importance of heart, the depth of heart. Again, not in a sugary, sweet, sentimental way where people associate sometimes the heart is emotionalism. Mm-hmm. But again, more the depth of who we are. What's really important to us, who we are, what are our core values, what's the right way to approach something.
Well, right now, that's actually a very hot topic. So I'm really glad that you're talking about it.
It is a way, and I think you're talking about the election, perhaps, and it is, and it's, but not just the election, but just the changes that are going on in such a fast-moving global society. It's the noise, the amount of information that many of us can easily be overloaded as we kind of carry our cell phones around us, unless you live in a rural environment or where there's less noise and less people. But most of us are in the suburbs or the large cities where we're dealing with just traffic, noise, complexity. Mm-hmm. And to find some clarity, some calm, some poise, some peace in the midst of all that. Well, that's what HeartMath, along with other types of organizations and philosophies are really moving forward in, that we need to find some inner stillness or some quiet such that we're not reactive or anxious. Right. Or overly troubled, and stay as poised as possible as we face some difficult decisions or some complex situations. So HeartMath is really getting practical with skill sets on how to achieve that poise or to greater degree in our fast-moving, noisy society. And we're in a lot of different areas of society, whether it's hospital systems, about 60 large hospital systems, many corporations, thousands of schools, hundreds of universities, government agencies, lots of nonprofits whose employees need these kind of skill sets to deal with the changing tide, because it is a challenging time
for lots of people. I mean, it is. It's true.
Yes. In fact, I was just reading some numbers, because I deal a lot with kids and adolescents, that I think it was the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services said that the teens ages 13 to 18, there's 6.3 million of them that have some kind of anxiety disorder. That's about 25% of that population. Wow. Let alone depression. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a byproduct of our times, and it's a very high number there, very unique to our times. And I'm not devastated by those numbers. Concerned, yes, but this time of change and uncertainty, there's new possibilities that we can, because we live in such a global society that was not ago to think these big thoughts, to think these possibilities. So even with there's these tremendous upsides going on.
Right. Well, and what they say is oftentimes with crisis comes change, that people who are focused can turn into something very positive.
Yes, I think there's even a Chinese character that says something like that. The Chinese character for challenge, I think, is that it morphs into opportunity.
Right.
So I agree with you, Patricia. It's well said.
So I asked, what is that? So I'm assuming that means the depth of heart. So you already explained that. Do you want to talk about the latest neuroscience research?
Yeah, this is really interesting, and this will be interesting to some of your viewers. As people know, that neuroscience is exploding on the scene in the last couple decades. In fact, there's a lot of university majors now that are neuroscience, which is really understanding the physiology of the body and how it processes information. And in particular, HeartMath and some of our researchers here, with the help of a lot of experts in the field, we look at the autonomic nervous system. We look at how the brain and the heart and the body communicate. Now, for a long time, we've been very brain-centric. It's actually going on for a couple centuries. It goes back to William Harvey, back in the 1700s, I guess, actually, who looked at the heart as just simply a pump and took out its mystical meaning that preceded it beforehand. And ever since then, we've been sort of a neck up world. It's all happening with the brain. And but the tide is changing a little bit, because we know that what goes down, what's underneath the neck, the body, the autonomic nervous system, you got these wires that go from the brain to the heart and the heart to the brain and down the back, let alone the gut, the rest of the body, that there's actually more information traveling from the body up to the brain than vice versa. And in technical terms, it's called the vagus nerve. You have just right in front of the chest, you have these two cables. They're almost like telephone circuits with thousands of fibers there. And about 90% of that traffic is going bottom up.
Wow.
As opposed to the spinal cord, which is about 80% brain down to the body, descending versus ascending. And what we did years ago in American Journal of Cardiology is we looked at someone's EKG, and we had a lot of different experiments where they play with different emotional states. And we looked at how anger affected the heart rhythms of an area called heart rate variability, or HRV, as opposed to appreciation, and how different emotions affect the autonomic nervous system, or the patterns of the heart. And those patterns in the heart aren't just there idly. They actually travel. Those signals ascend, neural signals ascend up the vagus nerve, up the body, and actually matriculates to the brain and can affect brain function. It's called cortical inhibition or cortical facilitation. So the quality of emotion we have can affect how well our cognitive brain works. And this is new for some people, but if you think about it in your own life, think about a time when you've been frustrated, and more than just for a minute or two. But you're frustrated because you're trying to get something done, but there's obstacles that are blocking you from doing it. Maybe there's a project you want to do, but there's not enough money, or someone is disagreeing. And that with that frustration, you can't think very clearly.
Right.
It inhibits your brain, whereas when you calm down, for whatever reason, you get more ability to think with clear ideas. So the neuroscience is really, really strong now, and we can actually measure that. We can put electrodes on the chest, electrodes on the brain, and just look at all the different neural signals happening with outside stimulus and which operates first, and it gets deep fast. But it's really intriguing area. It's a new area called neurocardiology.
Oh, wow.
The nervous system of the heart. The fact that the heart is not just a pump, but it has a whole nervous system with brain cells, LCNs, local circuit neurons, with memory. The fact that it's been reclassified as a hormonal gland, meaning the heart secretes hormones. Who would have thought? And it sends more information to the brain than vice versa. It makes decisions independent of the brain.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So it just goes on and on. So in a way, we're coming back, not quite full circle, but we're coming back to kind of honor the heart as more of what it is, which is a kind of a source of wisdom, and it's an intuitive sense back to what the ancients thought.
Okay. Is there anything, how do you explain that to, I know this sounds silly, but I'm always like one of those people that likes to get language in a way that anybody can understand it. Is there any way that if you were going to explain the neuroscience of the heart to an elementary school child, what would you say? Or is it possible?
No, it is. No, it is possible because we do it all the time. We have programs.
Wonderful.
I would ask that child, when you're frustrated, how well does your brain work? When you're calm, how well does your brain work? And then I would show them a little simple pattern of a jagged, erratic pattern versus a nice ordered pattern that looks like peaks and valleys.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say something, when you're frustrated, this is what the rhythms of your heart look like. When you're calm or appreciative, this is what the rhythms of your heart look like. And that information, because it is a heart rhythm, goes from the heart up through these wires up to the brain and causes the brain to think clearly or not. It's the reactive brain versus the calm brain.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that. Is that
Okay.
simple enough?
Yeah. Now, so you say you have programs. Do you have materials that go with those programs that people can find out about?
Yeah, we do. We and it's in transition in some ways because we're moving more from a traditional classroom binder classroom program to more of a e-learning program. But we have a new program called Sunshine Secret.
Mm-hmm.
It's an e-learning program, Sunshine Secret, and it's got all sorts of cool stuff. It's got a story, music. It's got a breathing pacer.
Oh, that's wonderful.
It's got a breathing pacer for young children, young as 3, 4, 5, to learn how to kind of regulate their emotions. We have all sorts of emotional identification pictures. What's the difference between this face and that face? Mm-hmm. Then as we also have this really cool technology called the emWave technology, EMWAVE, and it actually measures your heart rhythms, your heart rate variability in real time. So if you put an ear clip on and put the what's called a USB module into your USB sensor, your port rather, or if you have an iPhone, you can use a sensor for the iPhone or iPad, soon to be Android. You can see in real time how your attitudes and emotions affect the patterns of your heart rhythm, chaotic or organized. And then you practice a simple self-regulation technique, a breathing technique, where you breathe through your heart. You breathe in for 4 or 5 or 3 or 4. You breathe out for 3 or 4. And then in that process, you try to generate an appreciation, like we're coming across the holidays now. This is a great time to have appreciation. So you combine the breathing, the heart-focused breathing, with the appreciation and the pattern. Literally, the pattern of your heart rhythms change right in front of your eyes, and this really cool technology tracks it. So this is widely used in schools and homes to teach kids self-control and adults. And then we have another new program coming out called Smart Brain Wise Heart, ages 9 and above. It's almost ready. It's going to be an e-learning along with a little kit. Got a series of videos that talk about these same principles that we've been talking about, but within a cartoon sense, about 3 minutes long, with all sorts of supportive activities. So it's
that's right up my alley. That's good. Okay.
Oh, it is. Yes, and just I that's what I do all day, a lot anyway. I'm on the phone talking to various educators, nonprofits, parents, youth specialists, counselors, who are looking for skills, technology, to help the people they serve,
right,
do better in life, be more resilient, deal with challenge, deal with complexity, and we're having a lot of fun bringing these supportive skills and technologies to people.
That sounds wonderful. I mean, it
really
does.
It's a lot of fun. It's really an enjoyable part of my life.
So then the next thing I have on my list is inner strength. Is that right?
That'll work.
I mean, I don't know where I even got that. I'm so sorry. It says,
that's all right.
Inner strength.
So if you think about it, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier, this remarkable time we live in of change and uncertainty, where there's a lot of fear and anxiety, a lot more stress,
right.
A lot of noise, and just relentless social media hitting us all the time. Less parent involvement. It just goes on and on. There's for a lot of people, there's just no downtime.
Right.
And so in that noise, within that information overload and whatnot, we're almost compelled now to cultivate some practices, some routines, some rituals that pull on some form of inner strength, where we can take a brain break from all the noise. It's like taking an oasis, but strategically. Not like we're going to go meditate on a mountaintop.
No, I live on a mountaintop here at 9,000
Okay, well, you're in a better position than a lot of us there. I live in the forest here, so I'm similar.
Right.
But it's like during the day, taking some time, 3 or 4 times a day, 1 or 2 minutes, maybe longer. Maybe you start the day a 10-minute practice of prayer and meditation and quieting on your side, quieting the insides, all the noise and what your agenda is, and then before you go to bed. And it takes some structure. But we have to pull on our inner strength, our spirit, our soul, our God self, pull on God. It's language in a lot of different ways for a lot of people to deal more effectively with what's going on. It's not just a touchy-feely luxury. Mm-hmm. It's more and more becoming a requirement.
Thank you for joining me here at the Creativity, Thinking, and Education podcast. We have been having an amazing conversation with HeartMath's Jeff Goelitz. And this is part 1. Next week we will have part 2, which is filled with even more wonderful information. Please visit us at happyteachershappystudents.com if you find value in this podcast and the message that we're trying to spread. Then click the subscribe button and give my show a review. I am so excited to be able to share the timeless awareness of all of our guests. Thank you.